Concern over carbon sequestration projects and carbon pipelines still very much top of mind at the State House, even though they canceled session for today, Thursday. They were in session yesterday, Wednesday, and one of the Senate committee hearings discussed carbon sequestration and the need to protect sole source aquifers from any kind of pollution there may be from carbon sequestration. Some background on all of this. You had this year a couple of leaks reported from an Archer Daniels Midland facility that's pumping carbon dioxide in liquid form deep underground, and a way to try to capture and sequester that. For what reasons? Well, people say it's taking carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere because of climate change. But others saying, hey, this could be a new technology to be able to change that carbon dioxide liquid into some kind of energy source in the long run. Not sure we're seeing any of that actually come to fruition, but what we have seen come to fruition is pipelines being essentially shut down because of the concerns that environmental groups and property rights groups have about potential of these pipelines leaking and carbon dioxide in liquid form coming out, spreading very low, and causing some havoc in places that there have been carbon pipeline leaks. The outcomes have not been good. You can't even start your engine because there's no oxygen. So imagine what that's going to do to an individual who's trying to escape a carbon dioxide pipeline leak. But again, while the pipeline proposals in Illinois have been shot down, earlier this year, Governor Pritzker signed a CCS, carbon sequestration bill that regulates carbon pipelines and carbon sequestration, puts a moratorium for 2 years on carbon pipeline development, hoping to get some more guidance from Congress. But some say that didn't go far enough to protect sole source aquifers, drinking water, and in particular the Muhammad Aquifer. Governor Pritzker was asked about this during his news conference earlier in the day yesterday.
Look, let me be clear. We all want to protect the Muhammad Aquifer, and we want to make sure that carbon sequestration is something that's good for the state and for the country and the world. Governor, so thinking about legislation about it is the right thing to do. If it needs to be done, remember that the legislation that we pass actually doesn't directly have any threat to the Muhammad Aquifer. So the question is, do you have to have a new piece of legislation to address something that doesn't seem to be the case with the legislation that we already have on the books?
There's a bipartisan concern, despite what the governor has to say about this. State Senator Chapin Rose has filed legislation to protect the Muhammad Aquifer. Democratic State Representative Carol Ammons has filed similar legislation, as has Democrat State Senator Paul Faraci out of Champaign. He actually was able to get his legislation heard in the Senate Executive Committee Wednesday afternoon, where he laid out what this particular proposal is all about.
As we know, the push for carbon capture and storage is an essential part of our broader strategy to combat climate change and move toward a sustainable future. However, we must balance innovation and progress with vigilant protection of our natural resources. This bill seeks to do just that by prohibiting carbon sequestration activities within, beneath, or intersecting any designated sole source aquifer, those vital underground water reserves that provide drinking water for countless Illinois residents. So this isn't just something that is important to me. As you can tell, and I'm glad that we have robust participation today to learn more, discuss, and understand the issues relative to carbon sequestration, specifically in a sole source aquifer. So what I can tell you is, from my district offices, this is probably the number one issue, or top number 1, 2 issues from constituents, from residents, from people who live in my district that have concerns about fresh drinking water. and rightfully so.
So again, Faraci sharing his thoughts in committee, but there were others there to talk about this from both sides of the conversation. Donovan Griffith with the Manufacturers Association, I believe, he testified a bit about how he is also among those concerned about the aquifer, and even said that he was on a task force to protect the Mahomet aquifer. But he said, listen, we need to kind of just take a step back here and look at what really the problems are.
I've heard firsthand through our numerous meetings that we had as a task force from individuals that utilize that task force as their drinking water. So I think everyone agrees that we should protect our sources of drinking water, and I believe Senator Faraci is doing his best and has the best of intentions with this bill. That said, carbon sequestration is a new concept for a lot of people. New processes can cause uneasiness. New processes can cause fear. And I believe that this bill is more in response to maybe some fear than others. And we have to ensure that the policies we pass are backed by the science. And the fact remains that the sequestering of carbon into the ground does not pose a threat to the Mahomet aquifer.
So what do the scientists have to say? They'll be debating this back and forth. Will this measure advance? Not sure, but Senator Rose, Republican from Mahomet, he filed his own legislation to have protections for the Mahomet aquifer. But he also highlighted how, when the governor signed the carbon sequestration regulation bill, he was standing right above an active leak at ADM. And some of the critics of the carbon sequestration efforts have said that ADM hasn't been forthright. ADM was in talks with state legislators while there was a leak, not letting them know that there was a leak, and so on. Here's Senator Rose.
I will limit my comments to simply referring everybody to what I said back in May. Little did I know that it would only take 2 months and the governor standing on top of it when it was already leaking for this technology to fail. But setting that aside for a minute, this area is all new. And so the bill I filed the day the governor signed the bill allowing this was limited to this aquifer, and then Senator Faraci's bill, which I'm now going to be a sponsor of, also includes this new area.
So this bill filed that has bipartisan support, is it going to go anywhere? Senate President Don Harmon, part of the Senate Executive Committee, asking for the bill to be held so they can continue conversations.
I think in your opening you framed the dilemma that we face very well. This seems to me to be a collision of virtues. On the one hand, we need to address carbon in the atmosphere, and on the other, we need to protect access to safe, fresh drinking water. The first is a catastrophic problem, but it seems remote enough that we lacked urgency in so many ways, and these incremental victories we get in tackling climate change are important. The second problem, the problem with the water, is remote, but if it were to occur, it is immediate and catastrophic. This has been a lot to digest here. I view this as the beginning of a very critical conversation, and I'm glad that the surveys are involved. I would like to digest this and to get even more expert information. So my recommendation, my request, and my commitment, my request would be that we hold this bill today in committee, that we continue this conversation, we get more expertise in.
So clearly, more is going to be said about all of this. We'll be there to watch it. It's what we do. It's Illinois in Focus. Get the podcast where you get podcasts. Get the headlines every morning in your inbox. Get the newsletter at thecentersquare.com and wake up with us every morning. Join the live chat. It's pretty active as we see that viewership increase. So greatly appreciate you guys being here each and every weekday morning with Illinois in Focus Daily.